Hello everyone, this is Dr. Ilyas from the Department of Education, Hazara University, Mansehra. Today I'm going to talk to you about research paradigms in social sciences. Research paradigms is an interesting issue, and there are many people who might find this discussion interesting. My personal observation as a research supervisor is that many research students often think of research as solely the process of data collection, analysis, and presentation of findings and conclusions. Um, Interestingly, that is not something that is the beginning of research. Ideally, that should not be the case. So, this presentation is to respond to this personal concern and to invite research students to reflect on the process of research with a more intellectual and philosophical stance. So, research usually does not begin with data collection or data analysis. What happens? It does not usually begin with the how and what questions. On the contrary, it often begins with the why question. In other words, research in social sciences is a response to our reflections on the why of social phenomena. So, why something um, is something the way it is, or why is something happening the way it is happening? And that actually is a kind of philosophical question. Our why often reflects the way we look at things, the way we perceive things, phenomena, or reality. How we perceive things is often reflective of our worldview. This worldview is also called our philosophy or paradigm in more philosophical and technical terms. Um, so, then what is the paradigm? The, the presentation so far tells us that a paradigm is a reflection of our ontological, epistemological, axiological, and methodological positioning and preferences. So, ontology, these are quite philosophical and maybe difficult terms. So, a kind of brief explanation of these. Ontology is the study of the nature of reality. So, what is reality? The question, the central question that ontology is concerned with is what is reality, or what is the nature of realities? In this case, social reality. Epistemology is the study of valid knowledge of reality. So, how we get to reality is a question that is responded to in epistemology. Axiological consideration assist us in exploring and using ethical ways towards the attainment of knowledge. So, one can have knowledge through maybe unethical ways, but as researchers, this should be our concern that we follow ethical ways in kind of getting access to knowledge. And then our methodological considerations are often a reflection of our ontological, epistemological, and axiological positioning. So, what methodology do we adopt for our research will be actually reflective of our ontological, epistemological, and axiological positioning. Now, my study tells me that three main paradigms have been identified in educational and in social sciences: positivism, interpretivism, and pragmatism. Positivism is based on the philosophy that reality is objective, independent of our perception of it, and knowledge is impersonal, universal, and based on our individual perceptions or our subjectivity. Then, interpretivism is based on the philosophy that reality is subjective, dependent on our perception of it, and knowledge of reality is personal and contextual rather than objective and impersonal, as is the case with positivism. Then we go to the third paradigm, which is pragmatism, and this is based on the philosophy that reality may have elements of both objectivity and subjectivity, and that we can get knowledge using a multitude of ways and means. So, this is a kind of mean position between these three paradigms of research or paradigms of exploring reality. Here is an example of that might clarify the different ways in which we actually access social reality or perceive social reality. So, beauty is in the scene. This is a stance that will be more reflective of the positivist paradigm of thinking. Beauty is in the eyes of the beholder. This is something that will be reflective of the interpretivism or the interpretive paradigm of thinking. And then beauty is both in the seen and in the eyes of the beholder. And so here the stance is that beauty actually depends both on the seen but also on the way one looks at it. So this is a kind of bringing in both of these subjective and objective paradigms into one. And in many cases, this is the modern stance that many researchers use in their social science research. So, in conclusion, what can we say is that our paradigmatic positioning has implications for our methodological choices in research, and that is quite interesting. And that actually means that the process of research or of empirical inquiry actually does not begin with the like data collection or data collection tools or thinking of methodological considerations, but actually it begins with our philosophical and paradigmatic stance regarding